Urban Myth Dissolution Center is an episodic visual novel. It plays a little bit like a point-and-click adventure at times, where you're going around trying to just uncover the truth behind a bunch of urban myths that have been popping up. It's really cool. This is one of my favorite games of the year so far. It is still early, but the story's so good, I just don't see anything topping it. The story is just so much fun. It does feel like many of the anime that I've watched before, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's divided up into 6 episodes, each of them revolving around a different urban myth. Kind of. I have at least one issue where I don't actually think it's a myth. I think it's just something different, but whatever. That's quibbling over something that's just not that important. So the 6 episodes are The Man Under the Bed, Bloody Mary, Netherworld, Katori Bako, and I'm sorry for horribly butchering that, Doppelganger, and the Samjima Incident. They're all really cool. Some of them are pretty relatable, like I've heard those stories before, and others are more like things that have been created on the internet over time. It's kind of interesting that they blended that together. So it's a nice mix of Japanese myths and also some American and European myths as well. So the opening part of the plot is something that I've seen in a lot of different Japanese anime over the years. Your main character gets tricked into joining the center because they try to solve this myth, or they get tricked into getting cursed by something, and then they have to pay off a debt, and in order to do that, they're working at the Dissolution Center. It's a little weird, but I kind of like it at the same time. Social media plays a big part in this game, so you're going to be using that to research myths. You talk to different content creators and influencers, and the director turns out to also be running a YouTube channel, which in this world is known as BooTube. No frickin' clue if that's actually a real thing, but whatever. It's just really awesome that he's doing this. So you'll finish up the case, and then a little notification will pop up on one of the characters' phones, and they'll watch the kind of thing that he is doing. So he gives his own little spiel on stuff. It's really interesting that all this stuff is in here, because a few of the myths do tie into internet culture. The whole overarching plot ties into the internet, and just how they really kind of dogpile on somebody, whether they were actually guilty of what they did or if they weren't. It's got a really fun message that I wasn't actually expecting. It's kind of a cool idea. The story really unfolds with a whole bunch of internet rumors and everything, and it all culminates in something called the Great Reset. This is speculated a bunch in the game, so you'll find a lot of people mentioning it when you're going through like the social media in the game. It's pretty awesome. There is a twist ending that I am not going to spoil here, but it's excellent. This is a visual novel, so the gameplay is fairly simple. You're not really asked to do much aside from solving some pretty simple puzzles and doing a little bit of clicking in order to talk to different people. Everything is very linear. There's not a whole lot of deviation, and I don't think there are multiple endings to it, so the replay value might not be as high as with some other games. Each episode is divided into 4 phases, essentially. 2 of them get repeated, but for the most part it's 4 phases. You have your initial social media research, where you look up what the rumor is, what is being said online, and then you go to the location where you talk to the people that, witnessed the event, and then you switch to a clairvoyance world where you put on a pair of glasses and you can see kind of like after images of what happened. It's pretty awesome. There's a lot that kind of goes into this, a lot of things that you may need to remember, but don't worry, your character is taking notes the entire time. After that initial investigation is over, then you go to kind of the myth identification, where you answer a few questions, and you find out what myth you're actually looking into. Some of them At least one of them I don't really feel is an actual urban myth, or maybe they could have tied it to something else, but that's besides the point. After you've identified the myth, then you go back and you do more investigation, you talk to more people, and you try to find out just what is actually going on. So in this world, all the myths are grounded in reality, which is kind of fun. So it's never actually an entity that you're looking for, or the item that you're looking at isn't necessarily cursed. There's something else going on. And that kind of leads to the final phase of every episode, and that's the dissolution, where you just figure out what the cause of whatever is happening is. And that's all really fun. I like the way they did this. I like the way that they present these myths as being true, and then they let you kind of go and figure out what's actually happening. There's always a real-world explanation behind everything, and that's just really awesome. I like the way that they did all of that. The game is kind of expecting you to remember a lot, but it also gives you those notes that you can go back to and kind of look over things and make sure you're doing it all right. It's a pretty fun way of setting all this up, and I just like the way the gameplay is. It's fairly simple. Sometimes it makes you think a little bit more about what you're actually doing. And yeah, I really enjoy just the ending part where you have to fill out like a little fill in the blank thing. And sometimes with that, the answer that I would come up with, which sometimes would make more sense than what they want me to put in there, it wasn't right. So yeah, it just made you kind of mess around a little bit. It's a really fun way to set up a visual novel, and I just like the way everything really works together with it. Urban Myth Dissolution Center is just a beautiful game. The pixel art is wonderful, and I love the cutscenes. I prefer this pixel art style to really the more realistic graphics you see from a AAA game, but that's just me showing my bias. The color palette here is mostly made up of blues, grays, red, white, yellow, and purple. It looks really good. I love the way that the red just pops out of the screen. So most of your characters are going to be in red and white, and then a little bit of black every once in a while. It looks so cool. I love the way they do it. It makes all the myths stand out. It makes all the characters stand out. It's so cool. The character portraits look really good. The animation on the cutscenes looks great. It's just such a cool looking game. The cutscenes are wonderful. They do their best to be scary, and while I really wasn't scared by them, I could see somebody, I guess, being a little frightened by what happened. I think they just look amazing. These add quite a bit to the story because you get to see the myth, and they stand out a lot more than what you see on like the adventure screen where you're just talking to people and examining things. Those character sprites look fairly basic. Then you get to like the actual portraits, which look really good, and then the cutscenes, which look amazing. That's when you can really see like more of the emotion in the character's face, where they try to be scary. It's also kind of funny when they try to be threatening or look a little awkward. It's really a funny game to see just the facial reactions for these people and how some of them match up with what's being said, or some of them are just kind of like goofy at times. I also like the switch between the normal world and like the clairvoyant world, where everything just sort of goes this lighter shade of red. It looks really cool. I like the way they do that. I like the way the music works with it, where trying to make it a bit creepier than what it really is, because, just the game really didn't feel scary to me, but the story was so good and all the artwork was really great. So that all worked really well. This really is a great looking game. If, you're looking for something that's like a horror manga, then this is definitely it. It just looks wonderful. I don't have anything else to say, so let's move on to what I think about the ending. So I'll try to keep the spoilers to a minimum here, but I might give something away, just be warned. There's this reoccurring theme throughout the entire game of these cards that are supposed to be like prophecy cards or something along those lines, and they tie into something called the Great Reset. And there's also this unsolved case that keeps getting brought up throughout the game, and also the people who are kind of tied to that unsolved case. You find out that this case was declared no solve, so the police just kind of shelved it somewhere where it could be forgotten about. Some of the evidence related to it was destroyed, and a few of the other cases that are tangentially related to it are also there. So it's a really cool reveal at the end that basically explains who some of the main characters are, and it's just really well done. I didn't see it coming, so that was really great. I was going along, and I'm in the middle of the 5th episode, or maybe even into the early part of the 6th episode, and I'm like, okay, I figured this out. These people are going to be the guilty party here, and it's going to be revealed that the big bad guy you're chasing after has some relation to whoever the murder victim was, and then we can wrap this thing up and go home, and they'll spoil or they'll tease a sequel, and then we'll deal with that later whenever that sequel comes out. That all kind of happens, but it's not exactly what you think, and the reveal is just really awesome. If you want to find out what it is, then you can find somebody else who spoils it online, or you can play the game yourself. I thought it was really, really well done. It's one of the better endings from any visual novel that I've played. It's just really awesome. So definitely check this one out and make it to the end and see what happened. And definitely watch the end credits just to get the final scene of this whole thing. It's awesome. I really love it. So definitely check this one out if you want. Let's go into just my final wrap up on this. Urban Myth Dissolution Center has really good graphics, great gameplay, and just a spectacular story. I was really finding it hard to put this down so I could jot down my notes and write up this review. It was pretty challenging for me to actually do, because I wanted to keep playing. If you like horror movies or anime or detective games, then this is the perfect game for you. It's a wonderful story. It's got an amazing ending. It's really cool. I love the whole mechanics of switching back and forth between two different worlds, for lack of a better term to say. It's just a great game. I love everything about it. The individual narratives for the other 6 episodes that kind of tie into the broader narrative that they're telling, it's really well done. I love everything about this game. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.